Hey everyone, welcome back to the Week in Soccer. I'm Dan Creel, and I know I need a haircut, but that doesn't stop soccer in the United States me needing a haircut. Let's get started. In this episode, I'll be talking about the start of the USL League One season. I'll also be dipping into the other USL Pro Leagues, the White House Task Force on the FIFA World Cup 2026, and also quick bit of history, soccer history. We'll be talking about what is almost likely the first televised soccer match in U.S. history. Let's do it. All right, so this past week, our dear leader signed an executive order, which he loves to do. It's his new thing. It's his kink, creating the White House Task Force on the FIFA World Cup 2026. Boy, oh boy. I'm worried about this World Cup, kind of how the tenor of things have been going in this country, and seeing how the current administration loves to kind of put their foot on things like this. Just a bit of quick background history, and I just Googled this recently. So I was just wondering what happened in 1984. Did the Clinton administration do something similar? I don't think they did. I think this is new. So the organizing committee for the 1994 World Cup here in the U.S. Was handled by World Cup USA 1994 Inc., which is was a nonprofit subsidiary of U.S. Soccer. That was the organizing committee, and from my understanding, I'm going to get the name right here, that they created a government relations department of World Cup 1994, was the department that handled kind of organizing all the government entities and things like that. It wasn't handled through the executive branch of the U.S. It was managed by government relations department, which a lot of nonprofits have, of the World Cup Organizing Committee. They kind of managed like 26, I believe, different agencies and working with the FBI and all that. So they organized that with the federal government. The federal government didn't do it themselves. I honestly don't know what cooperation is going to happen between this new task force and the current organizing committee. I'm sure the current organizing committee has been already getting up to speed on next year's Men's World Cup. We'll see how that plays out. I'm just really worried. It feels like a shit show in the making, the upcoming World Cup. Just quick, we go back a little bit further to 1994. I think there are a couple of old school World Cups to kind of look for. What is a little nutty is that back in the 70s, that FIFA kind of voted in hosting for two authoritarian governments. The first was 1978 Argentina, and the second was 1982 Spain. Now in Spain, that government went out of power in between Spain receiving the hosting and the 82 World Cup. And actually, there's some discussion out there that they think that World Cup happening there helped that kind of transition. But in 78, it was, I believe, a military government. And there's so much corruption that happened in Argentina. Lots of kind of government tamping down of dissidents. I think during the World Cup itself, they kind of did what authoritarian governments usually do, kind of step back and be all nice to everybody. But yeah, I mean, there was tons of corruption in Argentina. There's actually kind of conspiracy theory level, but maybe even kind of more reality in that the competition was kind of influenced by this. There was a lot of, just unrest during that. And I honestly do worry something similar is going to happen maybe here. This administration has shown that it likes to get in the middle of things and just kind of flap its mouth and really not play well when we're supposed to be kind of hosting and being good hosts. Really worried about the immigration crackdowns. We've heard already that from this administration that they're have been talking about not giving visas to folks who are traveling for the World Cup if they're going to be vocal and rooting for other teams. So, in the current immigration crackdowns, which are going to likely continue, do other countries and their tell their citizens not to come here or be careful coming here? Does this administration just wholesale decide certain citizens of certain countries aren't allowed here? Yeah, and I'm worried about what. How do we work with? We're co-hosting, right? It's not just the U.S. We're co-hosting with Canada and Mexico. How does this task force sitting in the White House kind of play nice with Canada and Mexico? I'm really worried about that. I know this administration is going to put their thumb on the scales of kind of the business side of this, and I can see, who knows, contracts maybe being thrown out or trying to be reworked or pressure coming. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But honestly, I'm really worried about whether or not it actually happens. Is that the idea that there might be some feelings of this administration putting the thumb on the scales when it comes to competition, right? Both internal, does the administration, signal to U.S. Soccer they want certain players on roster or not certain players, right? And we can kind of think in all our minds what kind of players this administration would prefer over others, but also like background of the games themselves is, do they kind of, the administration or the people in their circle of influence kind of try to influence other teams, other countries in other ways? I don't know. It's just kind of this unsettling situation we're in, and the world is supposed to be coming here for one of the greatest sporting events the worldwide that we have. This task force has somebody's going to be the executive director, right? Whether or not the current president allows them to kind of be in charge at all. But who do you think is going to be executive director? I would love to hear. I sent it out on Blue Sky. It's kind of a joke. And I don't even know if it matters, but just a shout out to Josh Reduter, who said that Alexi Lawless, and I know he was semi-joking, but I thought, oh, that's probably actually a perfect choice. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. I just want to talk a little bit about that, my concerns. Hopeful that everything goes well. I just don't know. It's such a big deal that I don't know if the White House cannot kind of stick their nose in it. But we'll see. We have, a year or so out, so maybe things will get better, fingers crossed. So that's kind of the crappy political World Cup talk. So let's get into something a lot more fun. Now we're going to move on and let's talk about USL specifically. We're going to focus on USL League One. They started this past weekend. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, we're back. It's Game of the Week time. I told you I'd be talking about soccer. Real quick. So last time I talked about having a Game of the Week, but I totally forgot to talk about it. I actually watched the very first opening match of this season's the Major League Soccer season between DC United and Toronto FC. Ooh, I think that's right. I've got it free through my cell phone carrier, and so I thought, to get up to speed, get used to it, I would watch that match. It was good. It was fine. It doesn't really make me want to go back to watching MLS. Both those teams, DC United and Toronto, were supposed to have not really great this season. DC United obviously has Golden Boot winner Christian Benteke. Now I got his name wrong. That's very embarrassing. They got out ahead. Toronto scored. I think Toronto scored again, and then DC United scored to tie it up. It was a tie. It ended up in a draw. Yeah, it wasn't a bad match. So I enjoyed watching it. Not terrible. It was great. It's fine. It's fine. I'm glad I watched it. I just wanted to talk about that. So, clip show. Maybe we become a clip show. Game of the week is the very first match of the USL Men's Pro season was the USL League One match on Friday. I thought they were all going to be on Saturday, and it was a nice surprise to have this match on Friday. South Georgia Tormenta hosting Richmond Kickers. I'm really bad at this. A really, really fun match to start. 6 goals total between these two teams. Teams which were kind of down in the rankings on the off-season folks who know USL and USL League One. But I think they're shown more, both teams, than what was expected of them. Going to watch some of the highlights and talk through them, because this is fancy YouTube and this is going to be a clip show. I'm going to do some clips because it's fun and I want to see if I'm any good at it, and I get to watch soccer and talk about soccer. So here's South Georgia Tormenta's kind of lineup. USL, getting up to speed early in the season. Oftentimes these lineups they show on the screen are kind of off. It is what it is. We're all imperfect humans, but it's pretty much close. This lineup is is what we saw on the field. So I believe we only got 6 returning players on Tormenta's team, pretty much revamped. And I liked what I saw. Austin Pack is definitely an upgrade in keeper. The center backs are massive. Kazanzu and Perpelica. Perpelica came over from Chattanooga FC. I got to see him 3 years ago. 3 years ago. He just came from Chattanooga FC in MLS Next Pro. His first season was in Nisa, and he's big, rangy, really good center back. I think he's going to be a player that folks talk about, new player this season. And he was really active in this match. Up front, we'll talk about Tunbridge, who's kind of in attacking midfield, but he was probably the man of the match. He got a brace in this one. He looked really, really good. 2 goals. I think it matched all last season. I really liked Reed Steven, his work on the right wing. He is a Bermudian, I think, national team player. I think it's Bermuda. So that was Tormenta FC. Let's look at Richmond's lineup, Kickers lineup, and I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the new logo, the letters, the letters in the middle of the new logo. It's like baseball-y, and I'm not a big fan. But the colors do pop. Like, it is a nice. The colors do pop. The roundel is nice. It looks good on TV. I wish the middle was a kangaroo. Make it a kangaroo. You got me. The white tops and blue shorts, and we'll see that in a second. I really liked. I liked, instead of all white, kind of the white and blue. It took a second for me to get used to it, but I like that, and I love the kind of the light gray old school logo on the front. That's a great callback. So for Richmond, Snedden gets a full kind of professional contract. Garnett, the young central defender, he played really well. Schenfeld on the left back played well. So I think what they wanted to do was run a lot of the offense. The connector between the defense and the attack was Barnathan. We didn't see that as much as I thought. My Maryland Bobcats bias is coming out. Espinal was sitting inside, kind of that. He wasn't right midfield. He's a left midfielder. That's one difference on this. 2 assists. He played really well on this match. Terzaghi up front didn't score, but he was super involved, and this is what you want to see from your striker. Obviously, you want them to score every single match, but if he's doing what Terzaghi did in this match, you'll take that, kind of being a pain, being a menace, drawing defenders toward him. Anderson, ginger winger, you got to have one if you're an USL League One team. He was actually on the right wing, so kind of flip this. He scored the first goal for Richmond. Really big for them. The German. Wow, the German number 10, Seufert, what a pickup. I would love to know the story of how they got him. He was everywhere on the pitch. He was just, honestly, he scored a goal, was kind of dropping back, left side, right side, all over, doing tons of work. A really nice pickup. I think we'll see a lot from him this season. I like this attack from Richmond. I saw the players when they went out, and I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And they showed it in this match. I know, first game, we shall see what happens the rest of the season. So let's get into a few of the highlights. So here's goal number 2 for Richmond. This is my guy, Darwin Espinal, on the run, takes it to the end line. Central, 2-1, bing, bang, boom. Chandler O'Dwyer, free in the box. Too much room for him. Again, another mistake by Tormenta. Richmond takes advantage. Just a really nice play by Espinal here. This is what he does. His soccer IQ is honestly off the charts. And last season, everything worked out for Maryland Bobcats, where they had the talent. And they had the coach had been there a while. They had a great game plan, and he got the golden boot and just kind of went wild. Espinal did. In previous seasons with the Bobcats, sometimes Espinal would just disappear for long stretches, and I called him mercurial. That's because if you're not getting him involved in the match, he kind of disappears, and it's not because he's selfish at all. It's because he needs good players around him, because he's just great at situational awareness when it comes to soccer. And if you're not kind of there with him, he just kind of he needs players around him who are as talented as him in the same range, because then he feels comfortable doing what he does. Otherwise, I think he feels like he needs to take a bunch of weight on his shoulders. You see here, he knew the throw-in was coming, and he started. He looked at the sidelines, and he started making a move toward the goal before the throw-in even happened, and that gives him broken away from his defender, and then he's already on the run. The defender has to catch up. He takes it to the end line, and South Georgia's scrambling, and they need to do a lot better job of both keeping track of Espinal, but also the other players. Richmond created that. Espinal got him out of sorts, and it's now 2-1 Richmond. So just six minutes or so later, Richmond gets a corner kick, bread and butter, back post, boom. Just Tormenta lost the man. Let him be free. Barnathan knocks it in. It's just kind of nothing fancy. Really nice corner kick, and boom, 3-1. South Georgia was kind of reeling after the second goal. The third goal made it worse, and they got one back in stoppage time. You see there's three down here at the bottom, 3 minutes of stoppage time. Creating Tunbridge up to Reece Stevens, back, create space, gets his brace, really nice kind of counterattack, creating that space, and Tormenta really needed that to kind of get back into this right before halftime, kind of the perfect time for that. So it's 3-2 at half here. So here's the fourth goal, really nice. Espinal takes the ball to Terzaghi, back to Espinal, one-time centers to Soivert, who creates just a lovely goal to the right side, into the right side netting, just all around from start to finish. That's just a great play by Richmond, from Espinal's vision to take it, to send it to Terzaghi, who sends it back, and Espinal centers, second assist for Espinal. Just a great goal. 4-2 Richmond, and that's where it ends. I will say first, I think 4 goals for Richmond since end of the 2023, and they lost that one 5-4, and I think the first 4-goal win for them since 2022, I think middle of 2022. I like what I saw from the attack on Richmond. I think they're missing Vignals. Espinal will give them something different. They do not need him to score as many goals as he did with Bobcats the past few years, but he can create, and you saw that here. And if he's doing that for them, it opens up a lot. Terzaghi, before the first goal, I believe, took a really nice rip on goal. Again, doing what you need your striker to do to cause problems. Talked about the determined Soivert, which is great. I will say that the back line for Richmond was worrying. I think when South Georgia was able to just pressure them, they felt super uncomfortable. Snedden as well. I think it seemed like he was kind of feeling a little on edge during the match. Like I said, the midfield defense from both teams was just non-existent, which isn't great. Tormenta, again, I really like what I see of them. They felt like the more complete team, to be honest with you. There's things didn't go their way. They made mistakes, and like I said, Richmond punished them for it. Just that's what Tormenta feels like. It's like either, if things go well, they win or do well, but if things go just even a little bit badly, they've just it doesn't, it's a trend or whatever, but in this game was similar. I really like their back line. They have Pack and keeper, really big central defenders. Their attack looks like they have a lot of pieces there. I think, again, like Richmond, didn't see much from their kind of midfield defense, and Sebastian Vivas didn't really have much to do. He was in the mix a bit, kind of setting up Tunbridge, but he had a quiet game. Again, it's just one game, so maybe that's fine, but I'd like to see a little bit more from him. So yeah, that was game one. Richmond 4, South Georgia 2. That's it. I'm going to try to do more of these clips and get better at it. So yeah. Former Maryland Bobcat player I want to talk about is Jake Dengler, who spent the past few years with Tormenta. He was their captain at the end there. Center back, just classic center back when you want a team. He's now starting with FC Naples, one of the other expansion sides this season in League One. Steady top level work at central defender. He shut down a number of. FC Naples played Red Wolves. Chattanooga Red Wolves shut down a number of Red Wolves chances Match was super chippy, and Dengler altercation near the end of the match, you got to watch it, led to a Red Wolves red near the end. So that's actually classic. Dengler too, he gets under the skin of the opposing sides. It's ends in a tie. Just a quick note about FC Naples. I was very impressed with them. Matt Poland, coming from Chicago House AC, and boy, oh boy, he had this team. Like, if you look at Westchester, again, not that Westchester SC did a bad, had a bad match at all in their match, but Naples just they didn't look like an expansion side, to be honest with you. This coaching staff had them ready to play a very kind of flowing attacking style, really nice, puts a ton of pressure on Red Wolves. Red Wolves really was on the back foot the entire match. It's a nice stadium. It's a nice stadium there in Naples. And the crowd was into it. Like, it was a sellout. It was announced as a sellout, and it was a loud crowd. They had numerous supporters group there, lots of drumming and chanting. The crowd was booing the Red Wolves for kind of wasting time, which you'd like to see. Impressive. Again, first match, we'll see if this carries over. But seeing Naples might be doing something there. They might have something in Naples, which is really, really nice to see. So got to talk about Dengler and got to talk about FC Naples. Again, another, impressed by these expansion sides and sides which are kind of getting reworked. We'll see once we get into the season and get the heavy hitters. They have to go up against the heavy hitters in the league. But yeah, nice, really nice work all around. Thumbs up, everybody. Thumbs up, lads, for this. Up next, a little soccer history ? Yeah, but maybe first, let's look at some Super League action. And I'll be right back after this.
Winding through traffic now as the ball's played across to Missimo, who finds Ubagagu! Slips its way into the back of the net. Minute goal from Chioma Ubagagu. That is the difference maker so far. Here comes Lancaster. Lancaster nails it home. Cameron Lancaster marks her first start with her first goal. Does get onto the loosely passed ball. Lancaster crosses it back post. Ubagagu, Thornton! From 5 yards out, Ali Thornton adds magic number 7.
Right, because if she's not doing a diving save with her legs to keep that ball in, it's going out of bounds and there is no goal. So 100% give her that assist. Ubagagu was the one who saved it, passed it, probably.
And Thornton does it again! And Ubagagu adds assist number 2. And they both found Ali Thornton. A wayward pass goes straight to Shepherd. Here's Mizimo. Mizimo rounding the tired back line of Brooklyn. Mizimo! 5 times a charm for Brooklyn FC. Next up for Dallas Trinity, Lexington away. Lexington high-flying after their victory over DC Power. Here's Strawn. Strawn squares the ball. Shepherd! Lucy Shepherd joins in on the fun.
Hey everybody, welcome back. So, in this last chunk, I want to talk about a little soccer history, and I talked about it at the beginning. So, the earliest televised soccer match in U.S. history. We'll get to it in a second, but I'm really interested just to start put it on your thinking cap kids and think about this. So I'm going to give you 4 dates, 4 years, and give you a little bit of time to decide what year you think is the first televised soccer match in U.S. history. Like four years here: 1937, 1940, 1966, and 1994. Maybe one of those is easy to get rid of, but yeah, just think about it for a second. Come right back and we'll talk about it really quickly. All right, so let's go through the years that it is not. So I threw in one that's pretty obvious, but there's a little tidbit there. So 1994 was not the first televised game in U.S. Soccer history. Obviously, that was a World Cup year, and obviously there were games on before that. But it's interesting. So the Detroit Wheels of the old USISL in 1994 reached an agreement to have all 10 home games of that 1994 season televised on the old PASS Sports Regional Network. It's now one of those sports networks that have been kind of disappeared and eaten up by others. So it wasn't 1994. If those of you picked that, you're probably a kid. And if you're a kid, you're probably not watching some old dude talk about soccer. So was it 1966? No, but why did I say 1966? So the 1966 final of the U.S. Open Cup was filmed by Telraw Studio. Telraw filmed the entire match in color and sold highlights of the match to television stations across the country. So the match was between Ukrainian Nationals of Philadelphia and Orange County. So 37 or 40, what do you think? Well, 1937, September 16th of 1937, BBC broadcast the first football match on TV in the history of the world soccer. It was actually a friendly between Arsenal and Arsenal reserves at Highbury that they put together just for television. So that's understood to be the very first televised soccer match in history. So if you picked 1940, you're right. It was February 4th, 1940. Hang on, I didn't put that date, so just hold on a second. Yes, I was right. February 4th, 1940, and I'm gonna show you some news clippings talking about it. American Soccer League match between the Irish Americans of Kearney, New Jersey, and Brookhattans of not Brooklyn, not Manhattan. They actually played in why am I blanking? The Bronx. The game was at Starlight Park in the Bronx. They broadcast the entire match on television. 6,000 people were there. It ended a 1-1 draw. So the match was televised by W2XBS, an experimental television station. There's a number of those back then. Experimental, literally because they were experimenting on how television was going to work. That channel is now WNBC4. Ended 1-1. The goals were scored by Chappie Chappelle. We know from the news article that I showed 18 minutes into the match, so we know literally the first goal on television history in the U.S. Chappie Chappelle knocked in the ball from a cross by Cockcroft. And right before halftime, Irish Americans tied it up. Razzo Carroll headed in across. Razzo Carroll, I believe he's from Kearney as well. One of the top goal scorers of that period of time. I think he was in his mid-30s at this point. He was on the 1928 Olympic team, the U.S. Olympic team. I think they got crushed by Argentina, something like 11-2. He scored one of those goals. That was the last Olympics before the World Cup. So the Olympics at that point was kind of the World Cup, the World Championship. So yeah, 1-1. it really is interesting, just real quickly, to see how this sits in the first sporting events that were televised. And this was just, less than 2.5 years after the first game in England. The first sporting event televised by the U.S., in the U.S., May 17, 1939. So, just half a year before, Princeton beat Columbia 2-1 Baker Field in baseball. So that's the first televised sporting event in the U.S. college. August 26, 1939, the first Major League Baseball game, Dodgers and Reds at Ebbets Field. Red Barber announced that. September 30, 1939, first gridiron football, so American football, game televised. Waynesburg versus Fordham at Triborough Stadium, where a lot of soccer happened later on. October 22nd, 1939, first pro football game, Brooklyn Dodgers versus Philadelphia Eagles at Ebbets Field. Can you see a trend here? All those games were broadcast by W2XBS. The same television station was doing this, trying to figure this out. And you see now that's where the soccer match sits. 1, 2 is first match, baseball, college baseball, Major League Baseball, gridiron football is third, pro football is fourth. Then the fifth after this that I could find, again, I'm just Google and Wikipedia, that's where the soccer match comes in. The first NHL match was a few weeks later, February 25th, 1940. New York Rangers versus Montreal Canadiens at Madison Square Garden. First basketball 3 days later, first basketball match, February 28th, 1940. Fordham versus Pitt at Madison Square Garden. I just did a quick search. I didn't spend too much time on this. I couldn't quite figure out when the first NBA, they used to be called the BAA, match was televised. The earliest thing I could find, I'm sure it happened before this, but the earliest I could find on the very quick search I did was kind of like mid-50s when they signed NBA signed a contract with the old DuPont network to televise those games. So pro basketball made it kind of miss this curve when W2XBS was kind of televising the first sporting events in the U.S. So anyway, February 4th, 1940, the very first soccer match televised in the U.S. I think that's it. There's like I talked about, there's a USL League One match this week, the midweek, and then we have the second weekend of USL coming up, and I'll talk about some more stuff then. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll try to do better next time, and we'll be back next week with another episode of The Week in Soccer.